this sheet here, and I have some answers submitted by one of the students. I hope there's no problem with sharing it with the world. All right, so let me go back and just clear all the filters that I have. Now this assignment is intended to help you guys to practice with utilizing the filters, because sometimes that's the quickest way to get to some summary of the information that you have. So this thing is a little hard to read the way it's set up, but anyway, we'll struggle through. The first part is asking us how many females are older than 16. So since we have a column that says older than 16 and we have a column that says gender, we can always go to gender and first of all focus only on the females. So we remove the males, and that takes us down to just the females. So we can highlight these and see that we have 21 females if you look in the bottom right. And we even need to drill further because we're looking for females who are older than 16. So we have the ones who are female. So we want to go in this set and remove the ones who are not older than 16. So we uncheck no, and we end up with this list, which I highlight it and I look here and I see that I have a count of 8. So this is indeed correct. Next thing I want to look at is how many males are younger than 16. One of the things I always say, if you're working in a table and you're doing filters and all that good stuff, you have to be super careful to remove the filter before you try to find another summary data, because if I just proceeded with this, I would be searching within a small subset for the table and not necessarily searching the entire table. So you have to be super careful with that. So you want to go to data and you want to clear, which removes all the filters and leaves nothing filtered. So we want to find how many males are younger than 16. So again, we can do gender filter first, go down to just males by removing the females. And then we can say older than 16. We have checked that. And if they're older than 16, it tells us a yes. So we can remove, or how many males are younger than 16? So we want to remove the yeses here. And we end up with this subset of males who are younger than 16, and this number is actually 26. So this here, males who are younger than 16 is actually 26. Not sure why we had 15 here. How many males like math as their favorite subject? Let's go ahead and make sure we clear the filter. And we're looking now for males with maths as their favorite subject. So you can either do males first and then you select math, or you can do math first and then select males. Either way, you're going to get the same response. So we deselect, and you can deselect one at a time or deselect all and just check the one you want. Sometimes that trick is a little bit faster. And you highlight to get a count. And here we have 11 males who like maths as their favorite subject, which is all of these here. So I'm not sure if when you were filtering something else was there, why this answer is less than it is intended to be. How many students fail both test 1 and test 2? Let me go ahead and make sure I clear my data. So for people failing test 1, and I have a function here that I added, but I don't want to use that. I want to use a manual process. Filter by number, and I want to go less than 50. is what we consider failing, and that removes everybody else and shows us all those who failed test 1. And we want to find people who failed test 1 and test 2. So then we go and we do the same filter for test 2 less than 50. And we find that there's one lonely soul who failed both test 1 and test 2. I wanted to introduce you guys to a couple of things. I hope you've been practicing pivot table. And I think that showing you a pivot table on a bigger data set might show you a little bit more of the power of a pivot table. So we have this data set here. I'm going to freeze screen so I can scroll up without the headings going away. This data set is a little bigger. It has about 400 and plus. As a matter of fact, let me make sure I clear the data because I had something selected. And if I do Control and down arrow, it takes me to the very end. So that's a quick way to find the end of the table instead of scrolling down. So this one has 578 data points. It has a list of customers, it has a list of products. The list of customers are 4 different customers. And then we have probably 4 different products, and it's just a coincidence why they are both 4. And here we have a list of salespersons, and we have a list of sales region. And then we have a bunch of other dates, and the way the dates are sort of cascaded, you can't see them unless you expand it, but it's all there for these 3 years. And then we have the sales, and we have the sales year that it happened, and the month, and the particular quarter in the month. So this is a real practical situation we have here. Control Home takes me back to the A1 cell. If you're ever in the midst of an Excel document, and for whatever reason you end up being lost somewhere, you can do Control Home and it takes you back to the home page, or not the home page, but back to A1 cell as the active cell. So what I want to show real quick is a pivot table using this data because it's a little more impressive. So let's go insert pivot table, and you want to double check that this thing is making the correct guess. So the dancing ants are around the entire heading. It's around all the data, and it goes to the very end, and it doesn't capture anything more or anything less. And once we have that, we go ahead and we click OK, and then it gives us this dialog box here for the pivot table field. And over here, it shows us where the pivot table is going to be created. So if we wanted to see, let's say, the products and the sales value for the year, we could drag sales here, having dragged the product in the first row. So this is showing us that bottles, this was the actual sales amount. And if we configure this as currency, it's a little easier to read. Let's do the same with this. So what this is doing, this is summarizing all the information that we just had. Let's say we wanted to double check how many occurrences of the product bottle occurred. We wanted to get a count for these products as well. We could actually grab products again and stick it into values. So what's going to do is going to create a count of products, and it's configured as currency because we had it formatted as such, even though that doesn't make much sense. So if we go back to number format and just select numbers, it will show you. As a matter of fact, probably general is a better number format because it doesn't give you the unnecessary decimal points when you're counting whole numbers. So this is showing you, summarizing the 578 data pieces and telling you that in that data set, the bottles account for this much sale and there are that many quantities of that particular product. And if I were to come over here and I decide to just randomly make a change here, let's change the bottles for the soft drink. And I'm going to mess up the data, but I'm just doing this to show you that it's actually reading from that. If you recall, when you go here, you're not going to see the changes live because it took a snapshot of the table and this is the result of that snapshot. I mean, you can make changes here and it will read the changes, but it's reading from the snapshot. It's not updating until you tell it to go and update by going to data and hitting refresh all and refresh all again. And if you notice, what happens here is now that the bottles quantity has changed because that's what I just messed with, so that you can see what the difference is. And the soft drink quantity is also changed. So let's say we wanted to do another study. We wanted to see how are these products selling as for each quarter. So if you drag sales quarter as a column, it actually starts to subdivide that. And then you can input sales into your values. And what this is showing you the sales per product per quarter. And if you wanted to just not see it broken down per product, you could actually get product out of this pivot table fields and just show the sum of sales over the sales quarters. If you wanted to look back at like your region and which region is selling how many for which, what quantity of product for which quarter, then this, you can see how quickly this is summarizing the information. So again, as I said, the pivot table and pivot table usage is really something that you just sort of have to fool around with. If we wanted to break this down further into, say, the years, we wanted to see the years for these orders. If we start the years under here, it's going to show us for each region, it's breaking it down into years, right? Or you could do this the other way around, where for each year, it's breaking it down per region. It's a subtle difference, but it's a difference nevertheless. So executives may want to see different things in the data, and it's a pain to go and process that by doing filters and sums and all of that. But it's pretty painless to do it using pivot table. So what I think, the way I learned pivot table and the way I sort of wrap my head around it is by starting small. Start with something that makes sense to you in terms of, okay, what does a summary of this look like? You can look at months versus years of sales. So this is showing you for January 2012 versus 2013. And I don't have anything in this region because I haven't added any values to this. It's just telling Excel how to break down the rows and the columns, right? If I wanted to just see a count of the products, I could do that, and I see a count of the products. And it's consistently holding on to currency as the summary here because I formatted these as currency, even though this is not a currency thing that is measuring. If I added the sales figures to the values, and it's showing me the sum of sales, now these are actual sales. So what this is saying is that for January 2012, this was the sales, February, March, and it shows you the breakdown for all 36 months. And then if you wanted to see, okay, how does January do as opposed to February? And one of the beautiful things about this is you can, let's say we copy this information, put it on a different sheet, just because we don't want to play with it live. Now, giving you a sneak peek as to what else you could do with this. I highlight the months and highlight the total sales, and you can do insert and do a graph just like that, that's showing you the total for January and what it was. And again, graphs and charts is going to be something that you can actually play around with and learn by doing. Excel doesn't always like to read directly from a pivot table, but sometimes it's fine depending on how it's structured. So what this complicated graph is showing you, immediately I have put this on a graph, and you can see the trends a lot better when it's in a graphical format than when the numbers are here and you have to sort of internalize which ones are bigger. You can see peaks. So you can see that the gray, and you look at the key over here, 2014 has the greatest sales in January. You can generally see that there isn't a month here that is consistently low, but if there were, you would probably see a trough. And with this, you could decide to just do for 1 year or another year only, so you can see the trend for that year. So again, this gives you an open palette that you can create whatever you want to create as the artist. So whatever data people are interested in seeing, you can generate the pivot table and get the graph to sort of follow that. So what I've reduced this to now is just sales and the months. If I wanted to put the years back, I pop it in and it showed me that. And if you ended up, I'm not sure if this is going to read live, but let's try it. If I put a filter here for the years of sale, I think when you do that, it sort of blows it into one summary, just because of how I'm attempting to dissect that. So some things are not going to make logical sense for Excel, and some will, and it will carry those out. But the best way to learn this is really just to sort of fool around with it and see what it produces, and learn by practicing. So right there, it's showing you a graph of the sales per region, right? And you can always do things like right-click on the graph and change the series chart type. If you wanted to change it to another type of graph, let's say you wanted to change it to a pie chart, you could do that. So it all reads into itself. So if you can summarize this data by using pivot table as easily as dragging things around here, it means you can always end up moving things. If you wanted to see the years and how the years sales were, you can do that. And if a pie chart doesn't give you the type of visual that you're looking for, because at a glance, I can't tell which one of these slices is bigger, but you can always change the graph type. Let's say we want to change it to a column chart. Click OK. Right off the bat there, I can look at it and see which one is bigger than the other. So it's again, the things are tying into having the data, and we start with the data in the form of a table. And that's super important. And a couple characteristics of the table and what it should have. Remember, we said that each row must be the same consistency of data. You can't decide that for some data you're not capturing the quarter, so you're going to leave this blank and merge these cells and all of that good stuff. You have to make sure that it's uniform. If you don't have the data for something, then you can leave it empty, but you want to have the structure of the data being the same you do not want to have any empty rows in the data. So the end of the data should be super clear, where you transition from this line being filled with all the data that has a similar anatomy to any other line in the data set. And at the end of it, you have an empty cell and an empty cell. You can't go add in a column over here for notes or something like that without an impact on your table. So if you want a column for notes, then a column for notes is a part of the table and it's there for everything. But if you have something that's unrelated to this table and you want to add it, you want to add it by putting it in a column that is at least spaced one column away from the table itself, right? So again, I am mentioning this because I want you to recognize that you will learn by fooling around with it. And in sort of coming full circle, if you end up wanting to look at this table and you wanted to look at the sales regions like Africa, you wanted to do this very often, to drill into Africa, and you wanted to drill into Africa for Q1, and you find you're doing those series of steps fairly often, I'm going to do a brief introduction of something that you can use in Excel, which is called macros. And essentially, if you are doing the same routine set of clicks or formatting or anything over and over again, then you should think macros, where what I'm going to do, I go into the developer tab and I hit record macro. And what I'm going to record, let's say I'm doing Africa Q1 very often, I record what is called a macro. And I hit OK. And then what happens once I hit OK there after hitting developer and then record, all the clicks that I'm making, Excel is tracking those clicks. And then I'll be able to get all those clicks to happen in one master button. And I'm going to show you how to program it. So we said we want this to represent just Africa. So we do Africa only, and we wanted it to zoom into just Q1. And I'm finished with all the clicks that I need, right? And because I'm done, I go back into the developer tab, and over here, you notice I have the option to stop recording. So I stop recording, and it changes to record macro. So it toggles between record macro. If you're not recording, gives you the option to record, or if you're recording, when you come here, you're going to see stop. So how do I get Excel to, quote unquote, play that macro? You have to put it somewhere, and we do that by inserting a shape. And let's choose this square here, and I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to call this Africa Q1, because I'm always looking at that. Let's say I'm the salesman for Africa, and I need to be able to look at that. Once you have it here, you then have to right-click on this, right-click on it, and then you're going to go to Assign Macro, and it shows you a list for the macro. The one you just recorded, you hit OK. And then now when you click on this, instead of you making all of those clicks, Excel will remember what you did and record it as Africa 1 and do it for you. So when you click on this, you notice it inserts a filter on this. And if you look at it, it's just Africa. And it also simultaneously inserted a filter on this and just shows Q1, right? All well and good until you need Q2 as well. So I want to have a tab here to show me each of the 4 quarters for Africa. Process is the same. Developer, record, and I'm going to do Africa Q2. And once I hit OK there, now it starts to record my steps. So I come here. The first step I wanted to do is to show me just Africa. and I want it to show me this time just for Q2. And then I'm done, and you have to go back and stop recording the steps, right? And then the same thing here, I can cheat and make a copy of this and change the name on it. But because I made a copy of it, it's gonna carry over whatever macro was here. So I have to right click and do assign macro and change it to the one I want. Click OK. Now, when I do a clear here, and I think it probably followed where in the sheet it went, because I had it filtered. Where did my macro tab go? All right, let's see if I cheat and filter here. It comes back. So let's move this here so I know where to find it when I have everything cleared. Okay, so it recorded as one supermassive size box because I had filters here, so it was spanning more cells than I could see. So let's go back and clear. It's all cleared. If we click on this, it should activate the Africa only. So it takes this to Africa only, and it takes this simultaneously to Q2. So one of the things I always do with this tool when I'm doing macros is I always want to record a macro that is doing a clear all. And I'll show you why and show you a couple of glitches that can happen with that. So I'm going to call this one clear all, where I wanted to remove any filter that I have. So I can always, instead of coming up here to data and then clearing all, I can do it as a macro. So data, come to this clear and clear all. And one of the things I always do is just go in and sort of fool around with these, any one of these, to sort of tell Excel to go in and check these two. I find if you don't do that, sometimes the clear all button will give you an error. It still does, but this is one of the ways I've found that it improves that probability. So I then go to developer and I stop recording, and I want to insert that. Let's put a clear all on a different shape, right? And I can assign this macro and call it clear all, right? And if I go to Q1, you notice it automatically shows me Africa and Q1. If I click on this, it goes to Africa Q2. And if I click on this, it clears everything. So if you're going to be doing those things fairly often, then this is a super powerful sort of feature to have. And you can do this and organize these. I don't remember what I recorded here. Is it doing anything? Yes, it's doing something. What is it doing? Let's see if we can investigate what this filter is doing. If I click on it, then it's adding a filter here. It's probably just showing me just the sales for the years 2012, right? And sometimes based on how these are when they're recorded, and you can test it and see it, if you click on multiple, then what it's going to do is going to add the filter to what is already there. So this one filtered this down to just 2012, and then this filtered down to Africa Q1. So what I'm seeing now is 2012 only, and then I'm seeing Africa and Q1. So what this is showing is the sales for Q1 for Africa in 2012 only, right? If I clear all, and let's say I had a 2012, and I did that. Now this is showing me 2012 Africa Q2. So you can imagine if I ended up with 4 buttons here for the 4 years, and then I had 4 buttons for the quarters, I could, at a glance and at a click, combine those to give me sort of any view that I want. So if you're going to be looking at things fairly often and they are pretty much the same routine, the same type of zooming in into the data, then this can be a nice way to do it. And because it can remember almost any keystroke in Excel, you can use a filter to record several other things. It's not just, I mean, use a macro to record several other things. It's not just a filter that you can record on it. So that I wanted to introduce macros because again, and I may sound like a broken record, this is going to be one of the things where if you think it's useful, then you are going to just have to try it and see how it works, see where the kinks are, try and figure out why you have those kinks. There's a whole detail to this where you can have macros that are assigned to the workbook versus assigned to your sheet. So you can store the macro in this workbook, or you can store the macro in a new workbook, or you can store macros in your personal list. That there's a whole host of things that makes it super complicated. But understanding the structure of macros, what it's doing, how to record a macro, and then having recorded it, how to assign the macro to a shape. And these you can actually move around. And I've done these where I have them color coded and located in different screens, not different screens, but different sections. So it becomes almost like buttons that you click on to give you different features. And then you can do the aesthetics if you wanted to do a fill that's different with different outlines and text colors and all that good stuff. Then you can knock yourself out and you can get absolutely carried away doing this because there are so many possibilities. But again, you want to stick to what's going to be the functions that you need and how can you use Excel to help you more efficiently achieve those functions. All right. So those were the things I wanted to get through tonight. We're going a little deeper in functions. The nested if, I'm gonna go investigate that, and I'm gonna do a video to augment this and send it out to you guys so you have it. I'm sure as soon as I get off this, I'm gonna see what was being done wrong. But it's a lesson to all of us that if you're making a mistake and you're not able to see and find it and see the nuance of that particular thing, then it's just not going to do what you want it to do. And sometimes you just need to take a break and come back. So that's what we have in store for today. Next week, the assignment is going to be one where we are sort of pulling all of these little skills that I have gone through with you guys into one more practical, holistic assignment, which is going to sort of take us through the next 3 weeks, where we can sort of apply all of these principles that we have learned in isolation to sort of a real world, practical situation. So that's what it's going to be. If there are any questions, now is a great time to let me know. If there are, I do owe you the update on the nested if. I will work on it and get it out. I'm not going to attempt to do it now. I didn't realize that we had, Chris has joined us. Radim, thank you. Sorry about the time confusion. The classroom has all the videos, and I will get the one for today, and I will augment it with some offline videos to sort of echo what I did today and have some glitches with it. I will have those updated by end of business day tomorrow, so you can get in the classroom. The classroom has all the videos so far and the assignments, and feel free to go ahead and send me an email if you have any questions, or if you want to open your mic or your chat now. I'll be happy to sort of do some dialogue. I feel like a radio host as opposed to an active classroom teacher. But that's okay, no pressure. The homework for next week, though, I'm gonna try and get you guys to do the homework ahead of time and potentially watch you on screen while we learn from each other. So be prepared to do a little bit of active participation starting next week when we get into the final assignment. So if there aren't any questions, we are going to get off a little bit early this week because this is a natural stopping point. All right, so I take it that the silence and the lack of activity in chat means that we are golden. All right, as I promised, I'll get the video for this session out by tomorrow, and I will augment it with a couple offline videos just to echo a couple of the points and illustrations that we tried tonight and it didn't work. Chris is still playing catch up. Yeah, you have all the material there, so that's great. It would be great if you can sort of go through all of it by next week, because next week is almost like a putting it all together and applying it in a real world sense. Because a lot of Excel is not learning mechanics in isolation. It's learning mechanics. It's reading a situation to say, hey, I have this data set and I need this info. What tools do I need to be able to get it? So that's what I wanted to. I want to teach you how to learn Excel as opposed to trying to teach you everything, because we could be here forever and then you would learn it and not necessarily know the best way to apply it. So that's it for me. Catch you guys next week. Awesome. So that's great. Keep doing that, Chris. That's how you learn, and you learn by actually getting in and opening a file and trying these things. You saw I've been using Excel for umpteen years and I still struggled with that nested if. And if you ask me how many times I've done that nested if, it's probably at least 100 times, literally. So that's gonna happen. So the more you get into it, the more practice you get. And I want to, for next week, start showing you how to read a situation and how to apply Excel to solve that issue. So that's really where it gets into the application, but we couldn't apply what we didn't know. So I spent the first 3 weeks shaping some of the fundamentals of Excel. So I think we're there now. So